The wind howled through the cracked windows of the old farmhouse like a ghost mourning its lost life. In Willow Creek, Montana town of barely 1,200 souls clinging to the foothills of the Rockies, the autumn storms came early and fierce, stripping the aspens of their golden leaves and reminding everyone that winter's bite was never far behind. 8-year-old Lily Harper sat by the kitchen table, her fingers tracing the faded lines of a photograph. Her father, Deputy Ryan Harper, in his crisp uniform, standing beside a majestic German shepherd named Shadow. The dog's amber eyes seemed to stare back at her, full of the loyalty that had defined their family before everything shattered. That was 3 years ago. A routine traffic stop turned deadly when a fleeing suspect's car veered off the road, crashing into Ryan's patrol vehicle. Shadow, his canine partner, had been in the back thrown from the wreck, with injuries that left him missing ever since. Lily's mother had passed when she was just 2, from complications during a routine surgery, leaving Ryan as her sole parent. Now, it was just Lily and her grandmother, Evelyn, in this creaking house on the edge of town, where the mortgage payments piled up like unanswered prayers. Evelyn Harper, at 68, moved with the deliberate slowness of someone who'd spent decades breaking horses and tending fields. Her hands, calloused from years of ranch work, now trembled slightly as she counted the bills from her part-time job at the local diner. $32.75, she muttered, tucking it into a coffee can labeled Rainy Day Fund. But every day felt rainy now. The bank had sent their 3rd foreclosure notice last week. Willow Creek was dying ranches, sold off to developers, young folks fleeing to Billings or beyond, leaving behind empty storefronts and bitter old-timers. "Lily, honey, time for bed?" Evelyn called, her voice soft but weary. Lily nodded, slipping the photo into her pocket. She dreamed of Shadow often running through the meadows, his bark echoing like her father's laugh. Tonight, as thunder rumbled in the distance, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. A whisper in the wind, perhaps, or just a child's wishful thinking. The next morning dawned gray and damp, the storm having left puddles like mirrors across the yard. Lily, in her worn jeans and a hoodie that once belonged to her dad, slipped out before breakfast to explore the creek bed behind the property. It was her secret place, where she'd build forts from fallen branches and imagine adventures with invisible friends. The creek, usually a trickle, had swollen overnight, carving new paths through the mud. That's when she heard it, a low, pained whine cutting through the mist. Heart pounding, Lily pushed through the wet underbrush, her boots sinking into the earth. There, tangled in a rusted steel trap half buried in the bank, lay a large German shepherd. His fur was matted with blood and dirt, one hind leg clamped in the jaws of the illegal device. His eyes, those familiar amber eyes, locked onto hers with a mix of fear and recognition. "Daddy's dog?" Lily whispered, her breath catching. It couldn't be. Shadow had vanished after the accident, presumed dead or lost in the wilderness. But the collar, faded but intact, with canine Shadow engraved on the tag, confirmed it. Tears stung her eyes as she knelt beside him, careful not to startle the animal. Shadow whimpered, his tail giving a weak thump against the ground. "It's okay, boy. I'm Lily. Remember me?" She reached out tentatively, and to her amazement, Shadow leaned into her touch, his tongue flicking out to lick her hand. Instant, as if he'd been searching for her all this time. But the trap was vicious, its teeth embedded deep. An infection had set and the leg swollen and hot. Lily knew she had to act fast. Running back to the house, she burst through the door. Gran, it's Shadow. He's hurt bad by the creek." Evelyn's coffee cup clattered to the floor. "What?" Lily slowed down, but one look at her granddaughters. Tear-streaked face told her this was no imagination. Together they hurried back, Evelyn grabbing a blanket and her old toolbox. The sight broke Evelyn's heart. "Oh, Ryan's boy," she murmured, kneeling in the mud. Shadow recognized her too, whining softly. The trap was old, likely set by poachers targeting coyotes or deer, though illegal in these parts. Evelyn had grown up hunting, but this was cruelty. Using a pry bar, she carefully released the mechanism while Lily held Shadow's head, whispering comforts. The dog yelped as his leg came free, but he didn't snap. Instead, he nuzzled closer to Lily, as if knowing she was family. Ah, he's too heavy to carry, Evelyn said, assessing the 85-pound dog. Shadow tried to stand, but collapsed, his leg useless. The vet in town, Dr. Elena Vargas, was 10 miles away, and their truck's transmission had failed weeks ago. No money for repairs, no neighbors close enough to ask without pride swallowing. But Lily's eyes lit up. The old wagon in the barn. We can make a sled, like in the stories you've told about great-grandpa pulling supplies through snow. It was absurda. Child and an elderly woman hauling a massive dog miles on foot. But Evelyn saw Ryan's stubborn spark in Lily's eyes. All right, let's try. They fashioned a makeshift sled from the wagon base, padding it with blankets. Lifting Shadow was agony. He growled once from pain, but allowed it. Lily rigged a harness from rope, looping it over her shoulders. I'll pull. You push and guide, Gran. As they set off down the gravel road, the sled scraping like nails on chalk, Evelyn prayed silently. This dog was more than a pet, he was. Ryan's legacy, a piece of her son returned from the grave, but saving him would take a miracle. The road to Willow Creek's center wound through rolling hills dotted with abandoned farms, their silos standing like forgotten sentinels. Lily strained against the harness, her small muscles burning after just a mile. Shadow lay quietly, his breath shallow, but his eyes followed her with unwavering trust. Evelyn walked beside, one hand on the dog's side, monitoring for shock. They hadn't gone far when a pickup truck rumbled up behind them, kicking up dust. It was Harlan Reed, the town's gruff mechanic, and Evelyn's old flame from high school. At 70, Harlan was widowed, running his shop on sheer willpower. He pulled over, his face creasing with concern. Evelyn, Lily? What in tarnation is this? Evelyn explained. Quickly the trap, the dog, the revelation. Harlan's eyes widened. Ryan's Shadow. I remember that mutt. Tough as nails. That leg looks bad. Hop in. I'll tow the sled to town. Gratitude flooded Evelyn, but as they loaded up, Harlan added, towns buzzing about those traps. Poachers from out of county, they say, targeting elk for horns. Sheriff stretched thin. In town, Willow Creek's main street was a ghost of its past. A diner, general store, hardware shop, and doctor. Vargas's clinic. Harlan helped carry Shadow inside, where the waiting room smelled of antiseptic and wet fur. Dr. Vargas, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who'd treated Ryan's horses years ago, rushed out. German Shepherd, trap injury, classic poacher work, she said, examining the wound. Infections advanced. Dehydration too. He'll need antibiotics, fluids, maybe surgery if the bone's damaged. But Evelyn, so cost $400 minimum, and if it's worse, up to $1,000. Evelyn's face paled. They had $50 hidden away. Lily, overhearing, tugged at Dr. Vargas's coat. He's my dad's dog. He saved lives. Please help him, the vet softened. I'll do what I can for now. For fluids and pain meds on the house. But we need funds for the rest. Word spread fast in Willow Creek. By afternoon, the general store owned by Mabel Thorne became an impromptu hub. Mabel, a widow in her 60s, set up a donation jar. For Ryan's dog, she announced to customers. Folks trickled in. The baker with $10, the librarian with canned food for the Harpers. But not all were supportive. At the diner, whispers circulated. That family's always struggling, said Clara Benson, the bank teller handling their foreclosure. Charity for a dog when people can't pay bills. Then came the first major conflict. Nate Collins, a 45-year-old rancher whose son, Ben 10, had been mauled by a stray dog 2 years ago, stormed into the store. Ben still bore scars on his arm and face, and Nate had become overprotective, setting traps on his land illegally, some suspected. That's the dog? Nate barked, eyeing Shadow through the clinic window across the street. German Shepherds are killers. My boy nearly died from one like that. Lily, helping Mabel, overheard and stood tall. Shadow's not mean. He's hurt because of a trap. Maybe like yours? Nate flushed. My traps are for coyotes preying on livestock. If that dog wandered onto my land, Evelyn intervened. Ben's attack was tragic, but Shadow saved Ryan's life twice. Ben, trailing his father, peeked at Shadow. His eyes widened, not with fear, but curiosity. "You look sad, Dad." "Not scary." The standoff drew a crowd. Pastor Elias Grant, the town's spiritual anchor, arrived. "Nate, remember Ryan's funeral?" Shadow was there in spirit. "Let's honor that," Nate grumbled, but tossed $20 into the jar. "For Ryan, not the dog." But as he left, Ben lingered, whispering to Lily, "Can I see him later?" Subplot emerged. Evelyn confided in Harlan about the foreclosure. "Ryan left us the house, but debts piled up." Harlan, harboring old feelings, offered, "Let me fix your truck. No charge, and dinner sometime." Meanwhile, Lily and Ben bonded over Shadow's stories. Ben shared his nightmares. Lily heard dreams of her dad. "Gosh, maybe Shadow can help you not be scared," Lily said. By evening, donations hit $150, but Shadow's fever spiked. Dr. Vargas warned, he needs advanced X-rays, possibly amputation if gangrene sets in. The specialist in Billings is 90 miles away. Flashback. Ryan Harper joined the sheriff's department young, inspired by his father's service. Shadow. A pup from a German breeder became his partner after rigorous training. They busted drug rings, tracked lost hikers. One night, Shadow alerted Ryan to an ambush, taking a bullet graze to save him. "Your family now," Ryan had said. After the crash, Shadow vanished. Search parties found nothing. Ryan's last words in the hospital, "Find Shadow. He'll watch over Lily." Present. As night fell, Lily sat by Shadow, reading from her dad's old journal. "Shadow's the bravest. He'll always come home." Town Councilman Victor Lang, a developer eyeing farms for condos, opposed the effort. "We're facing budget cuts. Why waste on a stray when the school's roof leaks?" Pastor Grant countered with a town meeting at the church. Stories poured out, Shadow finding a lost child in the woods, alerting to a house fire. "He's a hero," said Sheriff Tom Reyes, Ryan's old boss. "Canines retire to families. Shadow deserves that." Donations surged to $300. But Nate confessed, "One of my traps caught him. I set them for poachers, but I'm sorry." Twist. Investigating the trap, Sheriff Reyes found evidence of a poaching ring foreign tags on the device. This isn't local, organized. Ben, overcoming fear, visited Shadow, petting him gently. Shadow licked his scars. "He understands hurt," Ben said, tears flowing. Nate watched, his heart softening. Crisis. Shadow's condition, worsened infection spreading. Dr. Vargas. He needs emergency transport to Billings. Lang called Animal Control anonymously, claiming aggressive dog endangering kids. Officers arrived, catch-pole in hand. Standoff, Lily shielded Shadow. "He's family." Ben joined her. "He's good." Community rallied, phones out, filming. Pastor mediated. Lang confessed under pressure, redeeming by calling his brother a pilot for airlift. Helicopter drama, storm brewing, tense flight. Surgery reveals old bullet fragment from the crash that killed Ryan. Shadow dragged himself miles after, searching for home. Subplot. Poaching investigation. Nate helps track suspects, bonding with Evelyn Harlan. Recovery. Shadow stabilizes. Caller hides Ryan's letter. Shadow, protect my girls. Treasure buried under the old oak savings for Lily's future. Media frenzy. Local news covers. Donations flood. Saving the farm. Poacher twist. Raid uncovers ring. One poacher was the crash suspect's accomplice. Shadow sent leads to arrest. Ben adopts a puppy. Therapy through Shadow. Homecoming. Parade. Celebrations. Shadow limps but thrives. Lily, Daddy sent you back. Evelyn and Harlan rekindle romance. Town unites against development. Epilogue. Years later, Lily trains as a vet. Shadow by her side. Love finds its way home. Thanks so much for listening. See you in the next video. Have a great day.